Panel discussion topic. Second, rethinking employee experience, the role of learning and engagement, retention and growth. For this, the moderator is Dr. Apita Singh, AVP Human Resource, Hitachi Payment Service Private Limited. She has a journey always been about placing stakeholders' experience at the center of transformation. She began her career as a doctor and then discovered that healing organization could be just as powerful as healing people and never looked back. She is also the co-author of Amazon best-selling book, Not a Rat Race, Success Mantras of World Athletes, and the voice behind the widely followed HR blog, mindofhr.com, where she continues to influence the future of L&D and HR. Now the panel members are Ms. Veenu Bhattiji, Director, Scale in India, Mr. Rohit Sharma, Head HR Services, Bayer, Ms. Judy Entau, Head HR Logistics, Mr. Vaibhav Pawar, Head of L&D, the Supreme Industries Limited, and Ms. Surya Mukherjee, VP HR and Trade Financial Services. Can we have the moderator and all the panel members on the stage, please?
So, just before the lunch, so we'll keep it very short, don't worry. So, since there was a very interesting session just before this, and the session even before was on storytelling. So, I was thinking, let's start it with a story. Many years ago, when I was not an HR, I was a doctor. One of my mentors told me two things. That if you want to be a doctor, there are two kinds of doctors in this world. Number one, there's a doctor who will be very transactional, who will be giving you a prescription within 10-15 minutes, who will be telling next patient. And you will take the prescription, you might get well, and you might never look back at the doctor. Number two, there's a doctor, even if your pain point is not that big, will sit with you, will explain you what is going on in your body, how you can handle it, will all the myths and all the doubts you have, that doctor will patiently hear you out. And then, irrespective of the outcome, you would want to go back to the doctor. This is what, after years of migrating to HR and especially L&T, I have realized. Earlier it was patient experience, now it is employee experience. And in all stakeholder experience, one thing is really very, very pertinent. That difference between a learning and just an activity is that whether you're offering it as a transaction or whether you're offering it as an experience. It's very easy to be in this side of the table, but at times you need to sit on the customer's shoes, on the customer's chair, and understand what it is to be at the recipient end. And that's what this panel is bringing today. Here we have a combined experience of almost a century or even more. So we'll hear out all the beautiful things they have to say. We live in a world where employees have more choices than ever. Earlier it was like we were bounded to one company because we had a lot of constraints. But today we are in a world where we can leave, we can go beyond, we have a lot of choices. We can definitely drop our papers at a resignation. And there's where this one department which actually creates a difference is that growth has to be visible. If the growth is invisible, no employee is going to stay. So with this, let me start at the heart of the matter. In large, complex global organizations, learning can just feel like another program which HR sends. Normally it's like an email or it's like a module, अरे भाई HR ने भेजा है, click करना है, complete करना है. And another module to complete, another tick mark in the box. And yet we know when learning works, it transforms how people feel about coming to work on a Monday morning. So my first question is, Rohit, at Bayer, you operate at a significant scale across geographies and functions. How do you ensure that learning actually drives employee engagement and not just completion rate? Now, what are the signs, where is the real signals which tell you that
learning is one of the points, right? It's not just happening during the breaks, or they are taking 1 or 2 hours separately from what the regular work and then doing some learning. So learning becomes a focal point of discussion. Second thing is, there is a rat race to just complete, right? There are reminders coming, this is a mandatory training, then managers sending you escalation as to why this is not happening. So moving from completion to application, whatever the colleagues are learning, how it is then being implemented. Most of the time what we have seen is that the investment in learning, the effort, time, money that goes, it doesn't create any behavioral changes as an outcome. And ROI for learning has been a topic for all of us for a long time. We have tried, I don't think any of us have found a straightforward, scientifically proven answer. But that's something that we are looking at is in terms of how the behavior is getting changed. Because that is the long-term outcome that we are looking at. How do we make the topics of learning chosen and not mandated? How can we give the power to the employees so that they choose as to what they need to learn rather than mandating that this is something that they need to learn? Other thing is how we integrate learning in the regular work day. How do we bring learning in the rhythm of work? So it doesn't feel like that learning is something separate that they are doing. So I think these are some of the things that we have learned, and obviously looking at some of the indicators is the definition of growth, right? The definition of growth is such changing. It doesn't mean that your grades need to be changed or your composition needs to be changed, lateral, vertical, etc. So changing the growth and people feeling empowered to go for that growth. Manager referencing learning programs. Now, once I have attended, I feel that my colleagues should also attend. That itself gives a lot of impetus to that kind of a training. So these are some of the things that we have done, but on a holistic level, the thing that I am trying with my team is, and I open it to the audience, that whatever decision we take, it is just based on 2 factors. One is the desire and other is fear. You can take any decision, there won't be third motivation behind it. Most of the time, the learning that we do because of our conditioning, our bringing up, is because of the fear. People are behind AI not because they want to explore AI, because AI may take their job. So they are driven by fear. So in the long term, the intent is as to how do we move from fear to desire. Let's explore what this topic is all about. Let's look at as to what this topic is about. So as I keep on saying in my filmy language, moving from Chatur to Rancho style of learning. Thank you.
We keep hearing this phrase in LinkedIn posts and boardrooms like skills are the new currency. And as organizations are moving from a role-based organization to a skills-based economy, so if skills are the new currency, then learning is the new mint. So I want to ask this question to you, Venu, because you work across organizations, across the spectrum on capability building. As organizations become more skill-based in how they think about talent, how should learning evolve itself to keep pace? And are we building the right things, or are we still teaching the same things in a world that no longer exists?
Thank you for this question, Arpita, and it is indeed a very critical one. We all know the buzz behind skill-based organization, skill-based learning. So what is a skill-based organization? An organization in which talent decisions with respect to your hiring, training, deployment of projects, career mobility are all based on skills rather than, job roles and job titles. In the recent years, we've seen a lot of organizations who adopted this approach, and we've also seen organizations who are somewhere in the middle. And though the buzz is higher, one thing is very, very critical here. Specifically for L&D, skill-based learning is actually not a new term. But when you map it with a skill-based organization, a complete transformation is something that we need in terms of the approach, where it is mapped not only to the individual aspirations, but also, strategic business goals of the organization. So once your talent management, performance management, career mobility skills are defined and anchored in a common skills language, L&D has to play a very important role in nurturing this kind of an ecosystem. Right? So, whatever approach you use to define these skills, whatever taxonomies you use, it's very important that we create value. And how do we do it is, learning must focus. Every workshop, every journey, every intervention must focus on building very specific skills that the business needs. Second, individual skill gaps are different. Organization needs also are different. So, following a standard curriculum across your employees, across a certain function really does not help. We need real customized learning that is mapped to, real world context, learning that is not only limited to behavior and functions, but learning that also focuses on future skills, which is, what we've been talking about. So, I think it's high time if skills, have to be focused upon. We need to move from a typical training culture to a learning culture where it's in the ways of working. Just to summarize, Arpita, if skills are the new currency of growth, I think learning and L&D must ensure that we create, enable and deploy these skills across the organization and have a very focused skill-based capability development programs.
That's a great answer, Veenu. So, moving forward, there is another thing which I've noticed that employees rarely say it aloud, but they deeply feel that I'm willing to learn. But show me where it leads. What's in it for me after I complete this? So that's how adult learning works. We need to show the carrot that after you complete a particular learning or a particular training, here's where your career will show some improvement. And this question I want to ask to Judith, because in your sector, in logistics sector, talent retention is very, very challenging. I want to know how can organizations make learning pathways so genuinely enticing to the employee that it becomes clearer that it is not just a self-improvement, knowledge-wise, but it is also a visible roadmap to career growth and new opportunities.
Yeah, thank you, Arpita. And indeed, a very challenging and an interesting question. And I think before I start, I resonate with what my co-panelists have already mentioned a few minutes ago, that now when we talk about, definitely we as L&D leaders and as managers, we want to inculcate or bring in that learnings for our employees. But how do we do it? The best is, as mentioned by Arpita, is we try to first get into the transparency. Try to be open and transparent with the employees, showing them the pathways as to what are they interested in. It just should not be one-sided. Like we can have too many trainings and learnings just to complete the compliance-related exercise or just to check the boxes there. But how are we going to inculcate this genuinely? So, few pointers from my perspective. Those would be first, be transparent, share the goals and the strategic plan with the employees because their interest is equally important. Followed by, of course, the job rotation, skill mapping. We use different interventions which can be a part of this process and exercise. I mean, most of us know all that. Thirdly, being genuine, I would focus on this point because that is where everything comes in. So the employee himself or herself would express where her interest lies, also bases the competencies and skills, we can help them grow in the organization. Then we can look at job rotation. Very important, how do we recognize? Because when they undergo training, there are efforts which are there, which are gone in, the time, etc. So those also, in my world, we need to recognize that. Not only for promotions and increments and job elevation, but yes, it needs to be recognized. So these would be few points. In addition to that, how genuinely do we also manage or interact with them on a daily basis, like to find out. So obviously also getting into the mentorship and the coaching side that comes in. So I will also include this, and that's would be from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. That's a very comprehensive answer. Now to perhaps the most layered question in the panel. Nowadays we have this buzzword AI, technology, and that's a nightmare for some of the L&D folks who believe that AI is going to come and take over jobs. My question will be a little bit more deeper than that. Technology is shaping learning at a pace none of us has ever imagined, and it's a bit of unsettling and settling at the same time. AI can personalize, predict, and deliver learning at scales in ways where we traditionally struggled with. And in a way, it has been a helping buddy to a lot of us. In all this efficiency, I want to ask you, Surya, because you have been predominantly in the HR tech space and now you are in a fintech organization where technology is literally the DNA of the business. How can organizations harness technology and AI to enhance learning without turning in a cold transactional experience? And by this I want, how can we incorporate human in the loop so that there is human element live with the AI powered ecosystem?
So I think before we jump straight into the technology and the impact of the technology on the training and development, let us understand that how the technology also has evolved with the learning and development evolutions. So like Rohit was mentioning that training has evolved from compliance to a capability right now. So we have seen a shift from rigid classroom model to a very dynamic, continuous and AI-led framework. So we have seen 4 eras from the journey of the training and development evaluations. First started with the industrial revolutions where the training were more the technical skills training, classroom-based, instructor-led training programs. And then the era comes as a digital era where the rise of the internet, we have seen that the focuses shift from the where we learn to the assessing the content. We started using the various LMS platforms and started creating the digital content, and that becomes the asset for the organizations. However, soon we realized that dumping the content on LMS is not mere enough. So you have to be very relevant. It has to be integrated with the daily workflow. It has to be contextualized with the individual need. So then the era comes for the experience era. And now it is the augmented era that we are in with AI coming into the picture, where we are using the more immersive technologies like AR, VR, gamifications or simulations. So, but we have to understand that with the growth of the organization, it is not that everything will be workable to all the organizations. So it is very contextualized from the point of view that how mature the organization is, how mature your employees are, who are the receivers. I echo with Kanika when she said that the content has to be what they want and not what you want to deliver. So if it is not echoing or relevant for their career aspirations, then probably the content, whatever, doesn't matter whether you are creating with AI or you are creating with any other technology, when you are using a technology to deliver that content will make sense for them. It is again that you have to create that culture of continuous learning and something that will pull them for or motivate them for the courses that you have designed rather than pushing them for the training content, and then again the old practice of having completing the mandates, training mandates just to tick box the paper that you have or the mandate that you have from the organization. So, and every individual has a different learning patterns, preferences. I'm sure all 5 of us has different patterns or the preferences of how we want the learning to be. Whether it should be watching more videos, whether it is just reading the transcript, whether playing the simulations, or how do we want the training? How do we want to pace the training program at our with our busy schedules that we have on a day-to-day life? So I think most of the organizations today follow the blended approach where the technology places more of creating the content of the generic or the routine training programs, where the instructors or the trainers are meant for more mentoring, empathy-driven coaching, or maybe more of collaborative, dynamic problems or nuances of the businesses which maybe not the AI content will be able to deliver. So if both are blended, then I think most of the problems will be solved. And I think there are so many tools available today, the LMS or LXPs available, which gives you that flexibility, automate your training programs, and help you design the programs, which especially the micro-learning programs, bite-sized programs, which is very effective today and delivering the result that is possible. Even in my current organizations, when we started thinking that how do we build that culture, we always had the, being a startup company, we always had the buy culture of the talent. And when we started thinking that how do we move from a buy culture to a build culture of the talent, and we started thinking that how do we create that enthusiasm among the employee for the training and development. So there was need, there were asked from the employees as well that we want training and development, but specifically that it's not that you launch something which is very fancy, very sexy, seems in paper, but when you launch you realize that there are not many takers. Everybody has excuses of their targets, their or the other routine tasks that they have. But what is important is that how do you build that culture, how do you motivate them to come to the platform and use the platform to the best, which is what they want, at the same time what will serve the purpose of the organization. I've seen the platforms like there are many contents available, but maybe half of them are not relevant to me, and there are few, but I don't know whether I will be able to use that from tomorrow onward, or maybe the next hour that I am able to complete those courses. They are good in paper, I have completed. You can post that in the LinkedIn page, but are you able to use that in your day-to-day work? That makes the real difference. What technology is doing is building or bridging that gap, that yes, they are identifying the skill gaps, knowledge gaps, they are building the space, they are building, give you the risk-free environment where nobody is watching you, nobody, you are not feared about the judging with your co-participants. So that is the kind of confidence or the environment you have to give, the culture, the environment that you have to give, so that people are motivated, pulled towards those training programs, and at the same time they are getting the benefit and able to use those trainings in a day-to-day life. So I think that's how the blended approach can solve the purpose.
Thank you, Surya. And now I want to ask everyone, and feel free to jump in. What is that one thing which organizations have been doing and they need to stop doing it right now? And what is that one thing which they have not been doing and they would have to start doing right now? Because right now we are at that point where things can go either way.
So one thing, like I was mentioning, that identifying the cohort for a training program is very important. I've been into a training program or a workshop, I would say, that where the cohort was starting from very junior team member to somebody from these senior management teams also. And when the trainer started delivering the training program, half of the senior manager or the middle management team started feeling, why I'm here? Is it all relevant to me? Am I getting anything? Because I have spent 4-5 hours from my busy schedule, I am here traveling all the way, and whatever the trainer is explaining or the questions are throwing is all that is relevant to the very junior people or the people who have just started their career. So it is very important that it is not just to fill the books that yes, the training program is conducted, attended by 50 people, 100 people, or asking the managers. Most of the time I have realized that if you ask the manager will nominate the person who is absolutely free, either on bench or not doing anything or available. So half of the time you realize that you have trained somebody who has attended 10 training programs in the year and has not done anything significantly throughout the year. And the most important people who actually require that training program has not attended any training program throughout the year. So I think that is one thing the organization have to be very, very mindful and stop doing that.
Yeah, one thing that I would, from my perspective, it would be to first don't enforce, because then it's like, as Surat said, it's not worth the efforts and the investment done. That is one. Second is recognize the efforts so that it's interesting for them to know and to feel what's in it for them. So I think that can be started, and not to enforce, of course, compliance training and the other trainings, I mean, there's no option there, but when it comes to the trainings pertaining to the career growth, so that is where it has to willingly be done. So that will be from my side. Thank you.
And maybe a bit unpopular opinion, I am not against 1 minute learning on the go, etc. But what I strongly feel, and research has also shown, that for any learning to be retained, there needs to be a certain level of difficulty, right? And that's what the concept of flow also states. So I think as we want to address the issue of lessening attention span, etc., we should not forget the basics. Otherwise, what will happen? We'll get into that mini micro learning models, but it will not result into anything. They are okay to create awareness. They are okay to create that thought process. But for the real learning to happen, it should have a certain level of difficulty, so that it can be retained, it can be implemented, it can be applied.
Well, one thing that certainly comes to my mind, from the multiple projects that we've handled, we are from the other side, we are learning and development service providers. So if I just recap all the successful projects that we've handled in the past, some of them, something that's common in the most successful projects that we've handled is the involvement of the leadership in the design phase of the content. So this is exactly what I spoke about, right? Skill mapping, sub-skills mapping. Whenever leaders are also involved in it, it creates an accountability. And not only in the design phase, but also after workshops or after your journeys are completed, because it is for them to give them an environment to implement the learnings. So I think I know it's a very difficult task, but if this is what we can get them to do, it certainly bears more results, and like we call ROI. Yeah.
Thank you so much. There's a concept in medicine which I used to follow a lot. It's known as therapeutic presence. At times we go to a doctor and we don't want to know what the doctor is saying, we just feel the presence of the doctor is something which is healing. And hence we go, right? So same thing can be applied to L&D. At times, instead of pointing that these are your skill gaps or this is what you need to understand, you understand what the employee is and be in the employee's shoes. You make a promise to them, I see who you are, what you want to do, where you want to do, and I am willing to go the path with you. I am willing to walk the path with you. I think that was the crux of the entire panel discussion, last 30 minutes. Everyone pointed in some way or the other. The biggest organization who have a learning culture, which is the top notch, are not the ones with the biggest budgets or the best technology. They are the ones who keep this promise with their employees, that we see who you are and where you want to go and we are there with you at all times. They'll solve the only one problem, that what is it that I need to tweak in the experience that the employee feels excited to attend the office on a Monday morning. And a very important point somebody just said is keeping the manager in the loop. At times when I ask you, आपके office कैसी है, नया company कैसा है, the first answer which anyone says, office मस्त है यार, manager मस्त है, या boss मस्त है, और इस culture अच्छा नहीं है, boss is a pain. This is what we say. So that is the importance we place on the boss, the manager. So involve the manager, and very rightly you said that involve the manager in action. They are your partners and they shouldn't stay at the backlands and just say कि आप content बना दो, deliver कर दो. ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए. उनको बिठा के उनसे बनवाओ content. उनसे बनवाओ the whatever things you require. Make them work. I will say they are actually your indirect reporting lines. Think in that way, because only then they will have their skin in the game, and then your entire business will be your biggest ally. And I think that is the biggest answer to all the ROI. Numbers वगैरह are just things on the good to just talk, are just buzzwords. But only one thing you should always care for: when you're sitting in front of the CFO or the CEO or the MD, it should be your business leaders who are speaking on behalf of you. हमको बात नहीं करना है, they will do the talking for us. And if that is one thing, if you have driven home from this panel discussion of 30 minutes, then this panel has done an amazing job. And with this, I would like to end the session. And last, just one quote I would like to leave you with. Don't worry, there will be some employees whom we will train and who will leave. But the biggest loss you will face is if you have employees staying in the ecosystem, those who don't learn and they still stay back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the wonderful session. Now, I would like to call upon stage to felicitate all the panel members and the moderator, Ms. Kanika Tiwari, CEO, Universe. First, I would request to felicitate our moderator, Dr. Arpita Sen. Then we have Venu Batija from Skilling India. Rohit Sharma from Bayer. Juby Antau from Rolling Logistics. Surya Mukherjee from Incred Financial Services. Can you have a huge round of applause, please? Also a group picture. So we hope you have been enjoying the 14 LED